On a warm Friday evening, the neighborhood bar was alive with energy. Neon lights flickered above the entrance, casting colorful reflections on the wet pavement outside. Inside, the atmosphere was loud and cheerful. Music played in the background while people laughed, talked, and enjoyed their drinks. It was happy hour, the busiest time of the week. Groups of friends filled the tables, celebrating the end of a long work week. Some were dancing near the small stage, while others sat at the bar counter, chatting with the bartender. Glasses clinked, and the smell of food and alcohol mixed in the air. Everything felt normal, safe, almost perfect. The bartender moved quickly, serving drinks and joking with regular customers. He had seen most of these faces many times before. This place was more than just a bar. It was where the neighborhood came together. In one corner, a couple laughed over shared stories. Near the window, a man sat alone, quietly scrolling through his phone. No one paid much attention to him. After all, it wasn't unusual for someone to come alone and enjoy a drink in peace. Outside, the street was calm, with only a few cars passing by. The soft glow of streetlights added to the peaceful vibe of the night. But beneath all the laughter and music, something felt slightly off. It was subtle, easy to ignore. A cold draft slipped through the door every time it opened, even though the weather wasn't that cold. A few customers glanced around, feeling an unexplained sense of unease, but quickly brushed it off. After all, it was just another normal night. Or so they thought, because hidden within the noise and happiness of that crowded bar, something dark was about to enter and change everything. Just as the night reached its peak, the front door of the bar slowly creaked open. A cold breeze slipped inside, cutting through the warm, lively atmosphere. A few people near the entrance turned their heads for a moment, then went back to their conversations. A man had entered. He didn't look like the others. Dressed in a dark jacket, slightly worn and damp, he stepped inside quietly. His face was partially hidden beneath the shadow of a cap, making it difficult to clearly see his expression. For a brief second, he stood still near the doorway, as if observing everything. The music continued. Laughter echoed, but something about him didn't fit. He walked slowly toward the bar, his movements calm, almost too calm. His eyes, barely visible, scanned the room carefully, table by table, face by face. The bartender noticed him. "What can I get you?" he asked casually. The man paused before answering. "Just water." His voice was low, cold, almost emotionless. The bartender raised an eyebrow but shrugged it off and handed him a glass. The stranger didn't thank him. He simply took it and moved to a quiet corner, where the dim light made him harder to notice. From there, he watched, not like a normal customer. His gaze lingered on certain people, those sitting alone, those distracted, those who wouldn't be missed immediately. It was slow, deliberate. A woman near the bar felt uncomfortable for a moment, as if someone was staring at her. She turned, but saw nothing unusual. The stranger didn't move, didn't smile, didn't blink much. He just sat there waiting, blending into the crowd like a shadow. And while no one realized it yet, the night had already changed. Because the moment he walked in, the hunt had quietly begun. Eyes kitchen knife. As the night continued, the bar remained loud and crowded, but something about the atmosphere had subtly shifted. Most people were too busy enjoying themselves to notice, but a few began to feel uneasy. The mysterious stranger still sat in the same dark corner. He hadn't touched his drink. Instead, he watched. His eyes moved slowly across the room, studying every person carefully, not in a curious way, but in a calculated, almost predatory manner. Every now and then, his gaze would stop on someone sitting alone, someone distracted, someone vulnerable. Then he would move his eyes again, like he was deciding. A man sitting near the counter suddenly felt uncomfortable. He turned slightly and caught a glimpse of the stranger staring directly at him. Their eyes met for a second. The stranger didn't look away. He just kept staring, expressionless. The man frowned, feeling a chill run down his spine. "Weird guy," he muttered under his breath before turning back to his drink. Nearby, a woman noticed the same thing. "Is it just me, or is that guy watching everyone?" she whispered to her friend. Her friend glanced quickly, then shrugged. "Probably just drunk." But the stranger didn't seem drunk. He was too still, too focused. Minutes passed, and he finally stood up. Slowly, quietly. No one really noticed as he began moving through the crowd. He brushed past people without saying a word, his presence almost ghost-like. Wherever he went, a strange silence seemed to follow for just a second before the noise returned. Then he stopped, right behind a man who was standing alone near the exit. The stranger tilted his head slightly, watching him, waiting. And in that moment, it became clear. He wasn't just observing people. He was choosing. Eyes kitchen knife. The night carried on as if nothing was wrong. Music still played, glasses still clinked, and laughter filled the air. But beneath it all, something had already changed. Near the exit, the man who had been standing alone checked his phone and sighed. The bar had become too crowded for him, too noisy. He decided to step outside for some fresh air. No one paid attention as he pushed the door open and walked out into the quiet street. Outside, the noise of the bar faded instantly. The air was colder than expected. The street was empty. He took a deep breath, rubbing his arms as if trying to shake off a strange feeling creeping over him. The dim streetlight flickered above, casting weak shadows across the ground. Then, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, steady. He turned around. Nothing, just darkness and silence. He let out a small laugh, trying to calm himself. Just my imagination, he whispered. But as he turned back toward the street, a shadow moved. Before he could react, something grabbed him from behind. His voice caught in his throat. A hand covered his mouth, pulling him back into the darkness beside the building. His phone slipped from his hand and hit the ground with a soft crack. The street went silent again, as if nothing had happened. Moments later, the bar door opened again, and a couple stepped outside, laughing and talking. They walked right past the fallen phone without noticing anything unusual. Inside the bar, the music continued. No one realized that someone was missing. No one heard the struggle. No one saw the darkness take him. And just like that, the first victim was gone. But inside the bar, the night was far from over. Eyes kitchen knife. Inside the bar, the music still played, but something felt different now. The energy had shifted. A few people began to notice small, unsettling things that didn't quite make sense. Near the restroom, a man walked in, slightly unsteady from his drinks. He pushed the door open and stepped inside, expecting nothing unusual. But the moment he looked down, he froze. There were dark stains on the floor. At first, he thought it was spilled wine. But the smell, it wasn't alcohol. It was something metallic. Something wrong. His heart began to race as he slowly stepped closer. The stains led toward one of the stalls, the door slightly open. His hand trembled as he pushed it. Creak. Inside, the light flickered weakly. The stall was empty. But the walls, they were smeared. He stumbled back in horror, his breath becoming heavy. What the? Suddenly, the lights went out for a second. Complete darkness. Then they flickered back on. He rushed out of the restroom, panic written all over his face. There's something wrong in there, he shouted. A few people laughed, thinking he was just drunk. But others began to feel uneasy. Soon, whispers spread across the bar. Did you hear that? Something's not right. Where did that guy go? The bartender frowned, noticing that one of the regular customers hadn't come back inside. At the same time, the music suddenly glitched, stopping for a brief second before continuing again. That's when people started to look around. Really look. The exits. The shadows. Each other. And for the first time that night, fear began to take over the room. Because deep down, everyone felt it now. They were not safe anymore. Eyes kitchen knife. Now, the bar was no longer just a place of fun and noise. A strange tension filled the air, and people began noticing things they had ignored before. Conversations grew quieter. Laughter faded. I started scanning the room more carefully. Near the hallway leading to the restrooms, two friends whispered nervously. Something's wrong. I swear, one said. Relax, you're just overthinking. The other replied, though even he didn't sound convinced. Then it happened. A woman walking toward the back of the bar suddenly stopped. Her eyes widened as she looked down the dim hallway. The flickering light revealed a figure standing there, the same mysterious stranger. But this time, he wasn't just standing. His posture was different. In his hand, something metallic caught the light. A blade. Before she could react, the lights flickered again. For a split second, everything went dark. A sharp, sudden scream echoed through the bar. The music cut off instantly. When the lights came back on, the hallway was empty. The woman was gone. Now panic truly began. Did you hear that? Someone shouted. People started moving, looking around in confusion and fear. The bartender rushed from behind the counter, trying to understand what was happening. Then a man near the back pointed toward the floor. A thin trail of blood slowly spread across the tiles, leading into the darkness. That guy, the one in the black jacket, someone whispered, their voice shaking. Another person spoke up. He's not normal. I saw him earlier. He was watching everyone. The truth was finally sinking in. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just fear or imagination. There was a killer inside the bar, and he was still there, watching, waiting, ready to strike again. Eyes kitchen knife. The moment the truth hit, the entire bar erupted into chaos. People began screaming, pushing chairs aside, knocking over glasses as they rushed toward the exits. The once lively space turned into a scene of pure panic. Fear spread like fire, and no one knew where to run or who to trust. Get out. Everyone get out, someone shouted. But it wasn't that simple. As a group rushed toward the main door, they pulled it open, only to find it wouldn't budge. It was stuck. No, 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 no. A man yelled, pulling harder. Another person tried the side exit, but it was locked from the outside. How is this possible? Someone cried. The panic grew worse. People started pounding on doors, shouting for help, but the loud music from nearby streets and the chaos inside drowned everything out. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, then went out. Darkness swallowed the entire bar. Screams echoed everywhere. Someone fell. Someone cried. Someone begged. In the darkness, something moved. Fast. A shadow passed between people, silent but deadly. Then, a sharp scream cut through the air, followed by silence. The lights flickered back on for a brief second, and in that moment, people saw it. A figure standing near the center of the bar. The killer. Still, calm, watching them. Then the lights went out again. Now, no one was thinking clearly. People pushed each other, desperate to survive. Some hid behind counters, others crawled under tables, hoping not to be seen. The bar had become a trap, and the killer controlled it. One by one, fear took over every mind. Because now they understood. This wasn't just panic. This was a hunt. And they were the prey. Eyes kitchen knife. By now, the bar had turned into a nightmare. The music was gone. The laughter had disappeared. Only fear remained. People were scattered everywhere, some hiding under tables, others locked inside storage rooms, a few crouched behind the bar counter, trying to stay completely silent. No one trusted the darkness anymore. Every small sound felt dangerous. A glass falling, a chair moving, a single breath too loud. Because somewhere in that bar, the killer was moving. Slowly, patiently. A woman hiding behind a table covered her mouth, trying not to make a sound. Her hands trembled as tears rolled down her face. She could hear footsteps nearby. Step, step, step. They were getting closer. She shut her eyes tightly, praying he wouldn't see her. The footsteps stopped. Silence. For a moment, she thought he had gone. Then, a shadow appeared right beside her. Before she could react, a hand grabbed her arm and dragged her out. Her scream echoed through the bar, but it didn't last long. Elsewhere, a man tried to crawl toward the back door. He moved slowly, thinking he could escape unnoticed. But he wasn't alone. The killer appeared in front of him, silent, like a ghost. The man froze. There was no time to run, no time to scream, just fear. Across the bar, people heard these sounds, the short screams, the sudden silence after. One by one, they realized what was happening. This wasn't random. The killer was choosing them, hunting them, playing with them. And no matter where they hid, he always found them. Because in this place, there was nowhere left to escape. The bar was no longer a place of fun. It was a killing ground. Eyes kitchen knife. Inside the bar, only a few survivors were left. Fear had taken over completely, but now desperation was stronger than fear. People were hiding behind tables, counters, and broken furniture, trying to stay alive for just a little longer. A small group slowly gathered behind the bar counter. They whispered quickly, trying to make a plan. One man picked up a broken glass bottle. His hands were shaking, but his eyes showed determination. A woman beside him grabbed a metal rod from a broken chair. They knew there was no escape left. The exits were blocked, and the killer was still inside. They decided to fight back. Carefully, they moved through the dark bar, calling out softly to any other survivors. Every step felt heavy. Every sound felt dangerous. The silence around them was unnatural, as if the whole place was waiting. Then suddenly, a cold voice came from the darkness. "You really think you can stop me?" The lights flickered on for a second, and there he was. The slasher killer stood in the center of the bar, completely calm. Around him were broken tables, shattered glass, and silence. He looked at them without fear, without emotion, just watching. Then he moved, fast and brutal. The survivors tried to defend themselves, swinging whatever they had, screaming in panic. It was chaos, a final desperate struggle between life and death. But the killer was strong, fast, and ruthless. Still, the survivors didn't give up. This was their final stand. I's kitchen knife. After the brutal final struggle, the bar slowly became silent again. The broken glass stopped crunching under footsteps. The screaming faded. Only heavy breathing and distant sirens remained. The survivors, injured and exhausted, looked around in shock. The killer had finally fallen, or at least, that's what they believed. His body lay still near the center of the bar, surrounded by shattered tables and dim, flickering lights. For a few moments, no one spoke. Then reality started to settle in. The doors suddenly unlocked on their own, as if something had released them. Fresh air from outside rushed in, breaking the suffocating tension inside the bar. One by one, the survivors slowly walked out, confused and traumatized. Outside, police lights painted the street in red and blue. Emergency sirens echoed everywhere. Officers rushed in, securing the area and helping the injured people. The nightmare seemed to be over. But something felt wrong. Even as paramedics treated the survivors, one of them kept staring back at the bar entrance. The building looked empty now, abandoned, silent. Later that night, CCTV footage was reviewed. At first, everything showed the chaos, the panic, the fight. But then came something disturbing. Just seconds before the lights went out in the bar, a second shadow had appeared near the entrance. And it never entered the bar at all. It only watched. Still, silent, patient. The final footage ended with a flicker, showing the shadow walking away into the darkness outside. The case was closed. But the town never felt safe again. Because the real question was never answered. Was the killer really inside? Or had he already escaped before anyone even realized? I's kitchen knife.